Welcome to Suzanne's studio. I'm Suzanne Barnett, your host. Tonight, I really am so excited to introduce my guest, Dr. Tracey Wilen-Daugenti. Dr. Tracey is the Vice President and Managing Director of the Apollo Research Institute. Plus, wait till you hear this, she's a visiting scholar to Stanford University. Tracey, I am so happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Suzanne, for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Thank you. Well, let's talk about the fact you are a young, gorgeous lady, and you've written a book. We're going to talk about that. And you're a PhD. I'm very impressed with PhDs, especially ones that have such good personalities like you. So tell us, how did that get started?
Well, Suzanne, I'm originally from New York, moved out to the Silicon Valley years ago. In New York, I had a great sales job. I had a Bachelor of Arts. I was on top of the world. I came out to Silicon Valley and I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get a job because I didn't have the right degrees. I wasn't technical. I didn't have an engineering nor a business background. And I had to basically start over. So I got very passionate around work and education and the future. So that really led me to some of this exploration that we're talking about today.
Well, this is a good time to mention your book, Society 3.0. Now, what is 3.0?
Sure. So Society 3.0 is a way to differentiate from Web 2.0. And a lot of people associate that word Web 2.0 with social technologies such as Facebook, Twitter. And so what I wanted to show people is that this is really more. It includes mobility, it includes video, multimedia, gaming, and social technologies. And it's really the next generation.
Well, I've had this book now for about 10 days, and actually, I'm reading it. It's something that my left brain has to really work very hard. But the way you have presented this book is so interesting. I mean, I'd rather read a sexy book, but I mean, this is not bad.
Well, thank you. I try to mainstream scholarship, and that's very hard to do, to take an academic profile or look at something and then try to make it relevant for the general population. But I'm the general population, so that's how I like to have things delivered to.
Well, keep it simple is probably one of the most difficult things to do, really, to break it all down. And one of the things that we were talking about is that there are more women now receiving education in colleges and universities. Tell about that.
Yes. In fact, for every 2 men in college today, there are 3 women. And women more likely to pursue advanced degrees. They're postponing marriage for about 5 years, and they're having less children. So they're very focused, and it's really what I view as the pipeline of leadership for the future. In fact, in my institute alone, we actually have more women on board, not because of preference, because of pipeline. The volume of resumes that come to me that meet the qualifications are women. So I really see that women are our future.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on, Dr. Tracey. One of the things that I'm concerned about is that people who are, say, in their 50s and they're out of work and they are professional people, lawyers mainly, I mean the ones that I know, how do they go about getting a job? It's so hard.
Oh, sure. And it's going to get tougher. That's the reality. As life and work, it's much more complex. The education and skill requirements will be increasing. In fact, in the paper this morning, they were showing the disparity of employment between people without high school degrees, with high school degrees, bachelor's degrees, and master's degrees, and the gap is growing. So it's important to go back to work.
But what if they can't afford to further their education? You know, say they have a couple of kids, their husband is still trying to get a job. What can they do? I mean,
Sure. There's a couple of things. So one, you can do what I did. If you're working and you're in a firm that offers tuition reimbursement, use it. It's how I funded my master's and doctorate degrees, and afterwards any other course. Number 2 is take every technology course that's available in that firm, because that's usually offered for free, and you can get a baseline of technology pretty quickly. If you're not in a firm, you can go to community colleges and state schools to be able to pick up courses as you need them. And on the technology side, I'd recommend going to Microsoft stores, Apple stores, phone stores, so that you can get free real-time information and technical help. Now, if that's not an option, but in Silicon Valley all those options are available, you can also go online. And MIT, for example, Stanford offer courses for free. You can actually now pursue certifications online. You can also go to YouTube and watch free tutorials on things that you don't know, as well as go to community websites or e.how or ask.com and actually ask people for help. So there's a lot of resources today that weren't here before.
And so how do people find out about that? I mean, like, the information that you just gave, I think, is so pertinent. I really do.
Well, our research institute actually talks a lot about it. So to fast track it, you can certainly come to our website, which is apolloresearchinstitute.org. And we also look at very critical studies. So the one that I mentioned before is we actually compared in 7 industries if a student paid tuition, went to college, and went right to work versus someone at mid-career, someone who was in their 50s, had work experience, had been out of school for a while, and then went back to school and paid tuition. Well, the return on investment for that tuition was higher for the working learner because experience and education is highly desirable in any job or occupation. So there is a benefit. There is a benefit going back at mid-career. Some careers are a little better than others, like healthcare and IT, but all
What's
of them
IT?
are information technology.
Oh, okay.
Silicon Valley.
And I called your book 3.0 instead of 3 dots. Oh, God. The other thing is that you were talking about the Mexican-American. That was one of the topics that we were going to talk about, the Mexican-American women.
Yeah, so demographically. So I talked about some of the changes in society.
Yeah, talk about that.
And I was trying to separate what changes are actually occurring in society separate from technology. And the demographic profile in the United States, Hispanic population is well over 15% now. So the mix, or what I call the remix, is occurring in the United States. So that puts a lot of changes in the workplace. It puts changes in colleges, a lot of first-time college entrants. So this is just one of the many societal changes. Women moving into the forefront, mobility factors, people actually moving less. So what does that mean for jobs and for school? So those are just some societal trends that I was tracking.
And you were talking about virtual. I didn't know what that was. Tell about that.
Right. So virtual organizations.
Yeah.
Teleworking. Teleworking has actually increased over 400%. And what that is when a firm lets, or the government has employees who can work from home and actually link into their company without having to drive there. And a lot of organizations, including my own, is 100% virtual. So I have over 60 people who work for me throughout the United States, all at their homes. And it gives me a way to find the top talent no matter where they live.
And how do you do that?
Well, you use the internet,
Yeah.
and you connect. And we use a lot of things like phone calls or web collaboration tools and regular meetings. Just as if you were face-to-face, we do that virtually.
So how do you keep all of the 60 people in line?
Well,
I don't mean online, but
right.
I mean, how do you test them that they're really doing the job that you would like them to do?
Right, and this is some of the new skills that society really needs to think about is how do you create a virtual organization and how do you create that trust and that knowing or that sensing that people are performing? Well, one thing you can do is management by objective. So what that is when you have the organization goals, people map what they do to the goals, set deliverables, and measure to the deliverables. So it's very non-emotional for management because you can look at, did we achieve our goals and did you achieve what you said you would achieve?
I just can't believe this technology. I mean, what's going to happen, say, in 10 years from now?
Well, that's very hard to project, but I can tell you some of the things that are
Yeah.
happening now.
Now tell.
Is the technologies are really converging. So think about it. In 1985 is when the first cell phone came out, and today there's over 5 billion globally, right? So what's integrated now into your phone, if you remember when it first came out, you could only really dial someone. Well, now you can watch a video on it, you can take a course on it, you can launch an app. In fact, many universities have apps. You can play a game on it. You can do two-way video, so you and I could actually talk to each other in real time. So all of the functionality is actually converging, and it will continue to converge.
And like the, we're not promoting it necessarily, but like the new iPhone, you don't have to do all that stuff. You can just talk into it, and they're going to give you the answer.
Yeah, so that's a great example of how robotics and mobility converging, because Siri is robotic or automation of the phone that can do tasks for you, and that's a convergence of two technologies. So it's quite exciting. You think about it, the iPhone's only been around for maybe 3 years, and it's pervasive. So the one lesson to learn about that is technology is getting easier. It's getting smarter, it's getting easier. You can pick it up and actually know how to do something without learning a programming language. So I'm very optimistic about technology.
Now, are you optimistic about our society?
Well, you know, I have traveled the world, and I'm particularly sensitive to how much investment I see in education and in engineering and STEM sciences in India and in China and in Asia. And I feel like the Americans have lost the fire in the belly. You know, almost the urgency to continue the education, go back to school. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I feel in Silicon Valley you see real time the future and the importance of education and technology.
So what can the average person do? I mean, say 50 people will see our DVD. What do you think those 50 people might do?
Well, I think first, people really need to do a self-assessment, where they are in their careers, where they are, and where they'd like to be, and then reflect on where the gaps are so that they can effectively and efficiently fulfill the holes. So if it's, you know, brushing up on a degree or expanding that, or maybe it's just skills, or maybe it's just learning some new technologies. But if they could do that, I think it would be important just to continue to stay relevant. I worry that the workplace of today is not employable tomorrow, and I think it's critical for our nation to stay employed.
Yeah, talk about that, because I read that part in your book, and I found that so interesting.
So there's two groups that we partner with to do our research this year. One was the nursing organizations, because healthcare employs one in 10 people, and that will continue to increase. And the Institute of Medicine, which set some of the standards, said nursing and healthcare careers need more degrees and more technology. And the reason is the smarter you are in terms of education and the more technical you are, the less error ratio you have. When you're dealing with people's lives, you want the lowest possible error ratio. So I saw a surgeon using augmented virtual reality to do an eye surgery. It was fascinating. I watched robots being able to do a lot of the surgical procedures with much more precision than a human.
Really?
So the second group is the Manufacturing Institute, and they're actually thinking that today you really need to have a certification for manufacturing because it has gotten so complex. And you think about the fancy cars with all the technology, you know, it requires a much higher level of competency. I mean, some of these cars are designed by airline engineers, so they're quite complex. So they said that you really need skills, education, and technology. I went over to a car manufacturer, and they showed me how auto repair in the future is through augmented virtual reality glasses. You can actually use the sound, the voice, and visually watch what you have to repair. It's gotten that sophisticated.
Not yourself, you mean...
I watched a mechanic repair a car using...
yeah, but we can't do that, can we?
Oh, sure you can. I mean, as an mechanic.
Yeah. That is... You know, though, it just occurs to me, Tracey, that if we have all of this technology, what we as a human, what can we do on our own without relying on high tech?
You know, a friend of mine who was older than me taught me how to program video. I thought, oh my God, I could not touch technology, but it came natural to her. She was using video to create Christmas cards for her family. She found a practical use. She decided to play with it. She learned the application, and then she taught it to me. Something as simple as that, learning from your kids, learning from your friends, just another little feature on your iPhone, just so that you can really maintain your proficiency. But you're already technical if you're using an ATM or you're using technology. If you're ordering online, you're using technology. I mean, it's really creating a comfort, because once you're comfortable, you can use it for other devices, other things.
Well, so what you're saying is that we're not going to fall apart. We're not going to become vegetables because we have all these applications that we can use, and we don't have to really use our memories anymore. We don't have to add in our heads, you know, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm just being the devil's advocate about this.
You know, I'll give you a story. I have a neighbor who is 93, and he worked well into his 80s, and he was having a hard time getting a job in his 80s. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, you know, I went into the grocery store, but they wanted me to know how to use this electronic cash register. So then he said, I suggested to work for the meat department, but they wanted me to use an electronic scale. So then I went to the retail store, and they wanted me to know how to use the inventory system. He said, I antiquated myself because I didn't learn technology. So what did he do? He went out and got himself a PC, a phone, and learned it. And I think he just got an iPad too. And he comes over all the time to say, what do I need to know? Now, will he get a job at 93? I don't know. At 93, I hope that maybe I'm not pursuing it, but I'm certainly very excited to see how he's embracing the technology.
But isn't that wonderful, though, that he's motivated to do that?
Yes, and I think that's important, if you can find a motivation. And I think as you get older, you have family and friends and grandchildren and nieces and nephews you want to keep in touch with. You realize how much they use technology. So it's really motivating to be able to connect with your grandchild on Facebook, or to be able to share YouTube with another child.
So you're saying that we as a group of people, our population, we're not going to just become, you know, just sit in our chairs and turn on television, that we're still going to be motivated.
I think human nature is motivated. Okay. But I think the danger of checking out or not participating is real. I think my generation was very interested in learning, but other generations may not be. It could be situational, and I think we just have to keep that urgency up.
I do too. So how do we do that, though?
Well,
Come on, you're the Apollo lady.
Yeah, well, a lot of it comes from the family. Right, so I think parents have to do their share in really encouraging their kids to learn, right? Just keep learning and learn how to learn so that you don't stop it. A lot of people picture that if you went to college, it was one stop, it's done, and that's it for life. Well, you think about it, maybe that was okay when you only worked 20 years, but today's reality, you're going to work about 50 years, 50 plus. So you have to learn. The second is, you know, again, with schools and families and friends, show role models. I find that a lot of the younger people today don't have a vision of where they can go. And so really showing people that, okay, I'm an academic and I can still have fun. And it's a worthwhile profession. Or I have a friend who's an engineer and she travels all over the world. And I have another one who works in the pharmaceutical industry. And I try to show, particularly young women, that these can be very glamorous and exciting industries. They just need to see someone doing it. So I encourage parents to really show their kids role models so that they can start to project themselves into vibrant careers.
Oh, that's such important information, really.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of young boys say, I want to be a gamer, right? I love games. Boys are great. They love to play it. What they don't understand that behind that is computer science. It's math and science, and it's that kind of education will lead you to jobs and gaming. But if I can take you to some of the electronic arts and you can see it's very fun, it's very cool to be in the gaming industry, what kind of education did those people get? So they can put 2 and 2 together.
Mm-hmm. Boy, you are a wealth of information, which leads me to tell the audience one other hot thing about you, that you were the, wait a second, you were named San Francisco Woman of the Year for your outreach efforts and research on women's technology. What was that like?
Oh, that was very exciting. So before I started to research technology, I did a lot of research on women, specifically on women in international business. And I had written a series of books on that. And the women kept coming back to me and said, you know, can you cover other topics that are so relevant to women? Well, living in Silicon Valley, the international community was very relevant, but then technology was too. And so I just did a number of studies, this is early years, on women and success in technology and outreach, and really just tried to bring those two parties together. And they honored me for doing that.
Well, I honor you for being here too. What do you see yourself doing in 10 years?
In 10 years.
Yeah.
In 10 years.
Is that too long a period?
No.
It goes like, you know, in an hour.
No, and you're exactly right. Time moves so quickly.
I know it.
And I will still be working. My sense at some point I might want to actually have my own business, because that's the final frontier for someone who's been working in a corporation or working in a virtual organization. At some point I could see myself probably doing my own business, but it's out on the horizon because my work here is not done yet. And I feel like I have another good 10 years doing what I'm doing and helping others before I move on and think about running an operation.
So you are the, I can't think of the word, but you know, someone that can do so many things.
Well, that's a reality today. They actually say that careers today are 4 years. So it's the 4-year career multiple times. So you go into a firm, you go into an organization, you do something for 4 years, you have an accomplishment, you become highly desirable for another organization, and you might do something affiliated, related to what you do well, and something else. And I found that my career path has been a lot like that. And it's in some cases it's been longer than 4 years, never really shorter, but certainly expanding. And if you can expand your role and your skills, you become highly desirable for other industries.
So you are I just thank God it came to quintessential woman.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
You are. And we only have a few minutes left, and I want to quote, or want you to quote, what I read. You have a wonderful, wonderful webpage, but you said that education pays off because it is the best way to create tomorrow's future today. And that's your passion.
That's true.
If you could say it in one sentence, what is your real passion? You could say it in 2. I'll give you 2.
I would say that I really want the workforce of today to be employable tomorrow, because I believe that education does pay off.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And that's what you talk about and you do speeches all over.
I do. I do a lot of speeches, and I meet with a lot of groups. I meet with students, I meet with faculty, I meet with corporations to really talk about the synergies and what will happen in the future.
Well, I'm really trying to pinpoint you to see, like, in 40 years, we're going to be able to go, or say 30 years, we're going to go into a phone booth and we'll press certain buttons and we don't even need transportation. Our bodies will be, you know, reconstructed into where we want to go. And I won't get so lost on the road like I do.
Right, so we'll use holograms. So actually the news industry is using holography as a way to beam in a newscaster. So we'll be able to just beam in here together.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to happen?
Oh, it's already happening.
What do you mean? Just tell.
So a holography would be the image, the real image that I am beamed into this chair. And we could do the same for you. And we can talk in real time, but we could be back in another studio. And it's like bringing the person in real time, their image, into the newsroom. So
it's imagery, not getting out. I just took a class on out-of-body experience.
Oh, no, it's not like that.
Do you believe in that?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
You can do your next research book on that. Well, I really want to thank you so much, Tracey. You have been such a really fascinating guest. You really have.
Well, thank you.
And I wish you continued success.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I also want to thank our crew. Boy, do we have an interesting crew, and little by little, I'm going to be able to interview them one by one and hear their story. I mean, what's it like to do all the tech stuff? And, you know, KMVT is such, I have to give it a little plug, such a wonderful studio, and everything is volunteer. So we do this because we're hams. I mean, those of us in front of the camera. And of course, I want to thank our audience for watching. What would we do without our audience? And you know what? I simply cannot wait to see you next time. So tune in. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tracey, you are so great.
Thank you.